going on, everyone? Conservative Video Dipper here. If you got a dip, pack a lip. I'm dipping on the king of all dips, Grizzly Longtail Wintergreen. Let's talk about, to me, what is editing, and I got a treat for you guys come Christmas. So what is editing to me? Editing to me is like art. Wait, hold on, conservative. How is that like art? You're not like freaking Vincent van Gogh or Picasso or Da Vinci or Francis Bacon, the artist. How is it art? Well, actually it is art. You know why? Because it takes time, patience, and it is an art form to correctly get down every single thing to the correct formula. If you think about it, it's a lot of things that you have to try to do. Everyone has their own, I guess, editing formula that they do, and everyone's different. Some people will do different things that maybe other people won't do, or may not be able to have the ability to do, that make it a little bit easier, or have that ability to make it less stressful or fast or whatever. But at the same time, it's still an art form, because you're still having to try to get everything down correctly. Every single edit, every single point, every single bit and piece has to be, just at that one right moment. You can't just let one bad thing slip. And you don't want one bad thing to slip. That's like if you're trying, for instance, to do a painting. One bad brush stroke can make that painting possibly look bad. So you want every brush stroke to matter and to tell a story. So just like every edit, that edit is telling a story. Your edits are telling a story of how you are changing and adapting to being a good editor, from when you first started to when you are moving along in your editing life, and you are getting better and better and better and better and better, to the point now where you have gotten really good at it, where you can learn, okay, how many frames per second are you needing to render this video? Oh, maybe I can render it at 1080, or maybe 720, 24 frames per second. Or if you can, for instance, if you're trying to redo a video that's, for example, 720 or 24 frames per second, and you see that there's a lot of mistakes in there, and you know that, okay, there's points in there where they have very bad points, and you know how to get rid of those bad points, and you know how to correct it. For example, let's say the camera is way too much on pointing to the ground when the camera should be pointing to the actors. You know how to adjust. The brightness and contrast is way off. How you get there. Brightness and contrast. You know how to manage to do that. That's an art form. You know how to work those things. You know how to adapt by using your tools, but on top of that, you know the formula that you want and need, because you have done it enough. But also it's telling the story of, to the people that are seeing you doing this, that you have gotten better, that you know all of your edit points. Cheers, by the way. Right there, that your edit points not only are no pun intended, on point, but you can do this without even blinking an eye. You could even do this in your sleep. I mean, well, you probably don't want to do it in your sleep. I wouldn't really recommend it. That would be hard, and I don't think any real editor would be able to do that. I haven't been able to manage that one. Okay, I'm not that damn good of an editor. Okay, I mean, I wish I could, but yeah. But you know what I mean. But on top of that, you also know, for an example, let's say that the audio is out of sync. You know how to take the audio and you know how to put it in Audacity, clean the audio up, and then render it, and then put the audio from the original video, silence it, put the new audio back in, and put it back in where it is timed exactly correctly, where it is not out of sync, but timed exactly where everything is on key point. That is an art. That is an art form that really is respected. That is a well-respected art form. That's why I think, to me, honestly, editing is an art. Kind of like chess. It's an art. You have to think about everything. You have to think about every single thing one step ahead. You can't just assume that, oh, okay, it's going to be fine here, here, and here, because if you do, then that might be your biggest downfall. Because when you go back and look at it, you might miss some points or audio that really was terribly out of sync, or the camera is really shaky, or the whole thing is just going to be way out of whack to that point where it's going to make that video not look really good. That's an art. And that's why when it comes to doing these things, editors really do need, you know, in my opinion, to have that kind of respect. That's why I think editors should get that respect, because they work hard for what they do. And I'm not saying that I don't ever get respect for it. I do. And you guys love my stuff. I'm not saying you guys never do. You all love my edits. I have seen it. I can tell. I know you guys do. Because it shows. But on top of that, it's not just showing that it's an art, but it's showing growth. So, also as an artist, if I haven't mentioned this before, it's also kind of the same way as you think like an artist as a, you know, a painter. I used to be a painter, or an oil painter. So an oil painter, when they first start, sometimes they may not always be the best oil painter, or the best painter in general. Their paintings may be really just kind of a little bit, you know, blah, or whatever, right? That's because they're starting. So they're adapting. So just like us editors, when we first start, we're always not going to be perfect the first time. And as time goes on, we learn to adapt and adjust. And we learn, like, brightness, contrast, how to use Audacity, how to use brightness and contrast. with maybe the hue, whether the hue needs to be up or down a little, or not even use the hue at all, or whatever else that we need to do. Or maybe we need to, for example, use Handbrake, which is another application that we use for helping us correct certain things in videos that really do need to be corrected, that are badly made. When the video's poorly made, it can help us correct it just a smidge, but it's not going to make it fully 100% better, but it would at least correct it enough to where it's manageable. We learn these things and we adapt with different tools that we use. So just like different paintbrushes have different usage. So different artists are going to have different brush strokes. So different applications are just like the different brushes that will create different brush strokes. You following me? Okay. When it comes to me as a editor, I have found myself to use different applications and different resources for different reasons. And a lot of these things that I have found are something that I have learned when it comes to being an editor, that sometimes you don't need to use every single application that I have named, but sometimes you use certain ones, and maybe sometimes, for instance, you want to create a happy little cloud. Yes, you gotta have a happy little cloud, a happy little tree, and then you gotta create another happy little tree, because that one little happy tree can't be alone. So you gotta create things to make things better, to make not only things better, that will produce things that will make people want to only not just enjoy it, but make it watchable and make it to where people can see these things and see that, again, going back to the brush strokes and going back to the different applications, that every application that you may have used, it tells a story of how you have learned to become better as an editor in yourself. You have learned to adapt by being more confident in yourself, by saying, okay, I'm not afraid. For instance, I was at one point afraid to use Handbrake because I made a boo-boo one time using Handbrake. But last night I used Handbrake, and I'm not afraid of it no more. I learned to use Handbrake a little bit better. Now I've learned that Handbrake's okay. You learn by adapting and learning that as time goes on, people are going to see that just like every application and just like every brush stroke, you are getting better. It's telling a story of how you are working harder and trying to achieve that goal to being a better editor. If I haven't already told you guys, I'm going again to give you guys a Christmas video. It will be out on Christmas. If it gets put out on here, it will also be on my Rumble channel. Go check on my Rumble channel too, because I will put it out there too. But like I said, this video basically is the same thing. It will show you guys from when I first started doing my edits to now that I have changed, that my edits have changed, that I have adapted, that I have learned how to do different metaphorical brush strokes. And this is what happens when you get better. More confident. Not cocky, but confident. And I think it takes a lot of time and patience to also do not just that, but within yourself. Because you have to have a lot of confidence within yourself and patience with yourself to be able to tell yourself, okay, if I'm getting angry or this is really aggravating me, I need to step back. And I need to just take time and walk away. And sometimes even good painters like Van Gogh, Picasso, Da Vinci had to step away from their art and take a breath and come back and work on their art, because not every great artist does their work in one day. That's truth. See you guys later.